We got one more to do, and I'm going to bring out my old pal Jim Cregan, Jimmy Cregan. Welcome, Jimmy. Come on. Come on, the pubs are still open. Let's get this done.
For our series finale on Boxing Day, I'm joined by a man that holds over 40 platinum and gold selling records. It's Jim Cregan.
We were in LA and we got a night off, and the management had managed to squeeze us into a club called the Roxy on Sunset Strip. And Rod and Britt Eklund came down to see us. You know, I actually saw them walk. It's a small club, maybe 200 people. So I see Rod and Britt come in. I'm not really looking at Rod. Britt Eklund was, in her day, one of the most beautiful women in the world. We get on great. We're laughing and joking and taking the mick, and you know, I'm very happily ensconced in Cockney Rebel. We're doing really well. I'm getting paid very well. I'm enjoying the guys in the band, so I didn't really care that much about whether I played with Rod Stewart or not. Until it was mentioned that there would be some songwriting.
To come up and see me, to make me smile. I'll do what you want, just run on wild.
And then I came up with the ending. It's all improvised, and they cut the two bits together. And we had a solo, and nobody thought anything much of it. So, okay, well, that's it. I'm down tools, off to bed. And when we played it to the guy, Bob Mercer, who was the head of A&R at EMI Records, he said, "I think you've got a number one here, lads." And we went, "Really? Okay, well, that's great." And it turned out to be right. We played with Howlin Wolf.
Played with Howlin Wolf?
Yeah,
wow.
and Hubert Sumlin. I didn't know how to address it. That was what worried me most, is that we were going to meet him at the gig. We'd be in a little tiny rehearsal for half an hour. I was thinking, do I say, "Oh, hello, nice to meet you, Howling," or "Okay, hello, Mr. Wolf"? I was thinking that sounds like bloody Little Red Riding Hood. So thank God he very kindly stretched out his hand and said, "Hi, my name's Chester." Right, because that's his real name, Chester Thompson. And I went, "Oh, thank God for that." He must be aware of the fact that nobody knows how to address it.
I love you, honey!
So I'm here with Jim Cregan. Thank you very much for joining me, Jim.
You're most welcome, Ryan. Nice to see you.
It's very nice to see you too. So a thing that I always like to do is I like to kind of go right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So what first got you into music?
My uncle gave me a ukulele with one string on it that he had lying around his house, and for some reason I was fascinated with the idea of picking out a melody, running up and down that one string. It was really strange. And eventually my parents bought me the other strings, and so I learned how to play the ukulele. And then one Christmas, I was supposed to get an Elvis Presley plastic guitar, which had a box over it. You pressed a button and it made a chord, right? And it had about 6 buttons on it, so you could, so I could have written a load of Bob Dylan songs with it, but it didn't show up in time. And so they rushed out at the last minute and bought me an acoustic guitar. And I was 13, and I picked that up, and I haven't put one down since. And that was, I'm 76, so that was a little while back. You wouldn't know I've been playing that long when you hear me play, but hey, I am. I'm a slow learner.
Did you have like a first band that you kind of really connected with? I think when people are growing up, they always have that one band, don't they, where it's kind of like their band.
Yeah, it was the Shadows. The Shadows, an English instrumental band with Cliff Richard's original backing band, and they went on to make their own records. And because they were instrumentals, all their hits were instrumentals, all the guitar players wanted to learn how to be Hank Marvin. I mean, you talk to Eric Clapton or Jeff Beck or any of those guys, in amongst all the other guys they love, Hank Marvin was definitely an influence. He was the first guy playing a Fender Strat, a pink flamingo pink Fender Strat, and everybody in the world that played guitar wanted one. They had one in my local music shop. Nobody could afford it. It stayed there for a long time. It was £260 or something, and you could nearly buy a house for that.
I wish I could buy a house for that now.
Hey, maybe. You just need to do it at gunpoint. That's how you get it. You've got to get a weapon.
I mean, I think particularly with everybody from your generation, that all of these bands, it all goes back to the Shadows. I mean, every time I spoke with Susie Quattro, and there's another chap called Tommy Emmanuel.
Tommy Emmanuel, monster guitar player.
Exactly, and he was like, "Oh, the Shadows, it's the Shadows." It goes back to them.
All right,
and it just shows what an impact. I mean, for an instrumental band, I mean, how many instrumental bands do we see now that are getting number one singles? You know,
none that I can think of.
Such a huge thing.
It's a shame, really, because some of the songs, the lyrics, well, this is from every generation, but some of the lyrics of songs are so bad they ought to be instrumentals.
It's true.
Yeah.
Things, really started to kind of move forward for you in your second band. I love the title of this band, the Dissatisfied Blues Band, where I believe you opened for Howlin Wolf. And what was that experience like for you at the time? I mean, you must have been
fantastic,
wasn't you?
Oh, yeah, brilliant. We didn't open for Howlin Wolf. We played with Howlin Wolf.
Yeah,
wow. and Hubert Sumlin. It was at the Klux Clique R&B club above the Railway Hotel in West Hampstead. And the reason this fell into our laps was Giorgio Gomelski, who managed the Yardbirds and at some point for 10 minutes managed the Rolling Stones. He had some connection to us. I can't remember why. But we used to play at the Marquee, which was a very prestigious gig in those days. And he would bring these blues artists over. Sonny Boy Williamson, for example, lived in his apartment for a while. He said, "You guys, you want to back up Howlin Wolf?" And we went, "Oh, are you kidding?" So we were. The strange part of that story for me, there were two things that were made me nervous. One is, even though I knew some of his repertoire because I had all his records, and Smokestack Lightning was a huge a crowd pleaser to play at gigs. I didn't know how to address it. That was what worried me most. Is that we were going to meet him at the gig. We'd be a little tiny rehearsal for half an hour, and then we just jam the rest of it. But I didn't know what to. I was thinking, do I say, "Oh, hello, nice to meet you, Howling," or "Okay, hello, Mr. Wolf"? I was thinking that sounds like bloody Little Red Riding Hood. So thank God he very kindly stretched out his hand and said, "Hi, my name's Chester." Because that's his real name, Chester Thompson. And I went, "Oh, thank God for that. He must be aware of the fact that nobody knows how to address him." And then he said later on, as we were in the dressing room, it was in the kitchen of the hotel. He said, "I know you boys know how to play the blues." I went, "God, well, mate, I was 18. I thought, it was so nice of him to say that, even though we all know he's lying. It's like watching Fox News. You know it's lying, but nobody's admitting it. And he brought his own guitar player, Hubert Sumlin, who was, as the joke goes, he was so thin he only had one stripe in his pajamas. And he played a twinkly blue Hagstrom guitar, and I just was mesmerized by him. He was a lovely guitar player. And so at the age of 18 or 20, maybe, I don't know how old I was, I'm on stage with one of the great blues giants of his era. And I was just blown away by the fun of it. And it was great. It was absolutely great. We got away with it. Nobody really messed up. The band weren't particularly good, but they weren't particularly bad either. So we got away with it. I'm delighted. What a bit of luck.
I mean, it must be a surreal experience. Like,
Yeah, that'll do. That'll do.
yeah, like, I mean, looking across and you just see this absolute icon.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, it was, because in those days, those blues guys, Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and all the great blues guys who were brought over here essentially by Giorgio Gomelski for the Blues Folk Festival. I saw these guys, Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee, Sister Rosetta Tharpe, all these guys playing at the Festival Hall, which is a big venue. I mean, these guys were coming out of little Chicago clubs that would have, 60 people in them, and they're playing to, 2,500, 3,000 absolutely rabid British blues fans. I mean, I spoke to an American guy yesterday on a podcast, and he said, how successfully the British had absorbed the blues and then sold it back to the Americans in the form of Led Zeppelin. Yeah, that was great. Hey, why not? Steal a good idea.
I mean, yeah, it is something. There's always been something about the blues. Like, I think. Yeah, it's like it's this kind of feeling and emotion with it. I think that, throughout the years, people always go back to it. I think, always circles back around. It doesn't fall out of fashion, really, does it?
No, the blues really is one of the primary musical art forms. Along with folk music and just sort of Afro rhythms, which of course the drum is the earliest musical instrument ever, apart from the voice. The blues it's the basis upon which rock and roll is built, and from rock and roll comes pop. So, sorry, I should have included classical music in there as one of the early ones, but classical music grew out of folk music as well. Some of those early Baroque styles of music contain old folk tunes. And folk music is Irish and Scottish folk music is a big basis of a lot of music too. I'm going to pretend I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's just a lot of bollocks. Don't take any notes.
No, I agree. I mean, for me, you can trace a lot of, as you said there, with like Led Zeppelin, you can trace it back to the blues.
Oh yeah, somewhat. You can trace it back through a lawsuit if you want to.
Of course, later that year, the band morphed into the Blossom Tones, where you guys, didn't you share the same manager as the Yardbirds?
Yeah, we did. Blossom Tones was, I joined, that's not quite, historically, that's not quite correct. Blossom Tones was a completely different outfit, they were called the Ingos, and they had quite a following in Paris. They had residencies in Paris for some reason, and they were quite a nice, well, not quite nice, it was a nice band, but the guitar player, for some reason, Giorgio Gomelski, who was managing them, didn't think he was right for the band, so he sort of squeezed him out and squeezed me in. And I'm not sure that Brian Godding, the other guitar player in the band, ever forgave Giorgio for that, because it was one of his pals. But anyway, we went on to be the two main songwriters in the outfit, and I had a great time in that band. And we developed that harmony guitar thing that was a trademark for us, but we managed to break the band up before it really came to its fruition. And Wishbone Ash picked up the idea and ran with it and turned it into quite a successful thing. And then also Thin Lizzy, Phil Lynott, he did it as well. There's that lovely harmony guitar thing. Boys Are Back in Town. It's which is great. So he did very well. But we kind of pioneered that without wanting to blow a trumpet. But then we had a car crash. Two of the guys kind of got freaked out by it and decided they would like to go off in a different direction, which was a shame. They broke the band up and threw me into a bit of a tailspin for 6 months. And I went off and lived in Positano in Italy and lived in Portugal for a while, just playing in bands, kind of figuring out what I wanted to do next. It's quite fun. But I came back to England, started a really strange band called Stud, which was John Wilson and Charlie McCracken from Taste, who, after Rory Gallagher left, wanted to go into progressive jazz. And like a fool, I said yes, even though I didn't know the first thing about playing jazz. Still don't. But we had a great time. They were great fun, those guys. They were really fun. But because Taste was such a big, successful band in the day, and Rory Gallagher was a really wonderful guitar player and frontman,
was considered by many,
which I wasn't.
One of the greatest.
I could play the guitar all right, but I didn't have Rory's ability to win over the audience quite the same way. So we started off having a full house, and then we come back and it would be a half a house, and then we come back and be a quarter of a house. So it was the spiral of defeat came along, and eventually the thing fell apart on its own. We didn't have much success, but it was fun while it lasted. It taught me that trying to play fast for the sake of of being fast was in and of itself an empty vessel. So I stopped right after that pretty well and concentrated on being more melodic and lyrical with my guitar playing, which turned out to be all right. And less is more, that old adage.
Yes, I mean, I remember when I was younger, there was a phase in kind of the mid 2000s where everybody was trying to play really fast. It was like as quick as possible.
Yeah,
and it was like it just became thing. Yeah,
guitar slingers. I mean, that's the quick on the draw. But I mean, there are some wonderful guitar players who can play very quickly. I mean, Jeff Beck comes to mind, and Eddie Van Halen, God rest his soul, an unbelievably beautiful guitar player. I thought he was fantastic. But, it's also, if you want to do that, you've got to devote an awful lot of time to practicing to have that amount of technique. And I didn't feel that was what I wanted to spend my time doing. I was more interested in sort of songwriting and, I don't know, building up other skills, But hey, maybe we could just call it laziness too. That would work.
I mean, you kind of was it around that period where you started to kind of diversify? Obviously you've been like a producer and you write songs, and was that period where you were like, I'm going to try these different things?
That started with Linda Lewis, who was we were married at one point for about 5 years. So I was the boyfriend at the time, I think, and she got a record deal with Warner Brothers. And in those days, one of the things that was great about the record companies is they didn't pretend that they knew any better than you. Right now they think they know what they're doing, of course, which has always been a terrible lie. So they'd give you the money, or they'd pay the bills. And, in the studio, we recorded it at Apple Studios in Savile Row, under the basement of the Beatles building. So, you could see George Harrison, coming out of the studio while you were going in, that kind of thing. And we made this really beautiful kind of folky, I don't know, Richie Havens band played on quite a lot of it. Richie Havens was a big hit at the time. We stole his band because he was on tour, and we said, why don't you stay on a couple of weeks and make this record with us? And then we had some of Cat Stevens' band who were mates of ours. It wasn't that record. We had Lowell George and Tower Power were on it on the next record we made. But Linda said, I want to make this record with Jim as the producer or as a co-producer. And I'd never produced a record in my life. But I knew enough about making records, because that's one of the few advantages of being a player and a producer, is you know exactly what it's like to be on the other side of the glass from the producer and having to listen to somebody give you a bunch of shit through the window and thinking, A, you don't know what you're talking about, and B, your motivational skills are crap, and you probably should just go away and let the band get on with it. So I learned sometimes shut up and let the band get on with it. It was a good way to make a record. So we made a beautiful record. It wasn't a big hit, but it made a big dent in. Oh, sorry, that's not the right word. It pushed Linda forward as an artist, and lots of people loved her, including Stevie Wonder, who, when he came to England, so was being interviewed on the radio, and this woman, Marsha Hunt, asked him, I said, who would you most like to meet now you're here in England? And he said, Linda Lewis. And she was, whoa, okay. Well, that was rather nice. And then so we went and met Stevie at Island Studios and hung out with him for a couple of hours. I think he was trying to run off with my girlfriend, but I mean, I forgive him for that because it's Stevie Wonder.
Can't really argue.
It was the same thing happened when we met Muhammad Ali. He wanted to run off with her too.
Wow.
I think I could have taken him out, I'm sure. But only if he was walking away. And
I don't know what I'd have said being confronted with Muhammad Ali.
He said to her, what are you doing with this white hole? This is my wife, actually. Thank you, Mohammed.
I'll get my coat. Yeah.
Get my coat. Yeah. So, anyway, moments of fun.
Of course, you also work with the likes of Family and notably Cockney Rebel. And obviously the iconic #1 single, Come Up and See Me, Make Me Smile. And can you remember kind of how that song in particular came to be, and in particular the acoustic solo on there? Because it's so iconic now.
Yeah, it has. Well, it did me a whole bunch of good, that's playing that solo. But Steve was what do I say? He was a bit of a last-minute kind of guy. So he'd arrive in the studio with a sketch of a song and just throw it out there. And because Duncan Mackay and myself loved to arrange things and were very happy if you gave us the work, we'd rather you let us do it than you told us what to do. I mean, unfortunately, I'm one of those people that if you hire me to be on your session, let me be whatever that Jim Cregan is that day, rather than ask me to be, Eddie Van Halen, or ask me to be perhaps everybody else. I mean, I can kind of sometimes bluff that style, but I'd rather you just let me be me, because hopefully that's why you hired me. Well, Cockney Rebel were good at that. And all of the players were inventive. Stuart Elliott on drums, fantastic player. Never just, well, I shouldn't say never, but rarely just did what any obvious drummer would do. So we put the tune together. The engineer, producer, what's his name? I can't think of his name for a minute. He produced the Pink Floyd. And he said, I think you should take your tempo up. And by the time we'd finished messing around with it, he also, I think, was responsible for the stops in it. After we all finished mucking about with it, it seemed like it was a pretty good track. And then at about 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning, they said, why don't we put a guitar solo on there? We left space for a solo. We put a guitar solo on there. What about acoustic? Somebody said. I don't know who it was. So we were in Abbey Road. I went down the steps from the control room into Studio 2, got myself a sound, or fiddled about on these. One of the things I don't do is I never play the solo that I'm supposed to do until they push go, because I get a sound by playing something else. But I want the very first thing I do to be fully improvised, so I haven't got a clue what I'm going to play. I'm so hit and miss, but fortunately, somehow, mostly, I managed to get it right. So I played all the front of that solo, first time, no rehearsal, no nothing, right up to the middle of it where I crashed. And they said, well, okay, well, that's great, we've got the front, but you've got to put an ending on it. So I had 2 more goes at it, I think, and then I came up with the ending. It's all improvised, and they cut the 2 bits together, and we had a solo. And nobody thought anything much of it. He said, okay, well, that's it, I'm down tools, off to bed, about 1:30. Didn't take me very long. And when we played it to the guy, Bob Mercer, who was the head of A&R at EMI Records, he said, "I think you've got a number one here, lads." And we went, "Really? Okay, well, that's great." And it turned out to be right. It was huge hit all over the place, except, sadly, for America, which we tried to conquer, but never did. It was hits all over the other places. It's a good record. It still sounds nice today. I've got to say, it still sounds good.
Yeah,
I play it in my band. And, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that song's just everywhere. I mean, I've heard it in adverts. I've heard it, it's just kind of been a thing that's always been there.
Yeah.
And it just shows how much of a hit that was. If it's still around now, it's like
it's been a hit. It's been a hit a couple of times, which is great.
Of course, after that, you went on to join Rod Stewart, going on and playing with him for nearly 20 years.
Yeah.
How did that partnership kind of first come about?
He's okay. So Cockney Rebel are trying to break America, and we're opening for the Kinks on quite a big tour, playing big theatres mainly, no arenas. Funnily enough, the Kinks, who I love as a band, and Ray as a writer, didn't really crack it as much as they should have done in America. So anyway, the theatres we're playing are all right. And then we're in LA and we got a night off, and the management had managed to squeeze us into a club called the Roxy on Sunset Strip. And Rod and Britt Eklund came down to see us. I actually saw them walk. It's a small club, maybe 200 people, but it's nice. It's got tables and waitress service and all that kind of stuff. It's really quite a smartish club anyway. So there's I see Rod and Britt come in. I'm not really looking at Rod. Britt Eklund was in her day one of the most beautiful women in the world. He seems to like what I'm doing on stage, and gets his tour manager to find me, call me up, and we arranged to meet in England when I'm back, and we have a drink in a pub called the Wrestlers in Highgate, and we get on great. We're laughing and joking and taking the mick, and I'm very happily ensconced in Cockney Rebel. We're doing really well. I'm getting paid very well. I'm enjoying the guys in the band, so I didn't really care that much about whether I played with Rod Stewart or not, until it was mentioned that there would be some songwriting, and that changed my point of view entirely. Because money has never been my driving factor in my life. Although, like everybody, I'm quite happy to get some money. The truth is, it's all about the people and the work. So anyway, nothing happens for a while, and fast forward 3 months or so, maybe a bit less, I'm back in LA doing a session for Cat Stevens, because he's written a song for Linda Lewis, and he wants me to play on it. So we go to LA and we do the work. I'm playing with these amazing session musicians, Ollie Brown on drums, other guitar player, Willie Weeks on bass. Oh God, I mean, these guys are the session heads of the world, and I'm there's this white bloke from Dorset sitting in a corner trying not to tremble. Anyway, I get the job done, and I've got a couple of days off while Linda does vocals and all the rest of it gets done. And so I call Rod, because he gave me his number, and I speak to him, and he says, "We haven't got another guitar player yet." He said, "Why don't you come down tomorrow and try out for it?" And I said, "Okay." Went down and jammed and got the job. It wasn't very difficult. I think they must have been desperate, really, quite honestly. And then we went on tour. We started in Trondheim, which is north of the Arctic Circle in Sweden, and we thought, we could get away with getting at least one gig under our belt without anybody noticing, which we did pretty well. Just playing a hall, and it was freezing, I remember. And we got magnificently drunk after the first night, because we got through it with hardly any mistakes. We did rehearse quite hard. For us anyway. It was never repeated. I've got to be honest. We never repeated the amount of rehearsal we did to get that first band off the ground. We did the unplugged record, and we never played the whole. It was a quite a long set. It was maybe 20 songs. And we rehearsed all the songs individually, and sometimes we'd rehearse a little block, but we never rehearsed the whole show. And I've said that to other musicians. They go, "What? You never ran it from top to bottom?" Yeah. Oh, it was 20 songs, but it was far too long. And Ronnie Wood had a pickup truck backed up to the doors into the rehearsal room, and in the back of it, he had a cooler with fitted in the exact width of this Ford Bronco, I think it was. And you lifted up the lid, and there was an entire everything bar you wanted. It was, of course. We seemed to want quite a lot of it. So we would stop and, anybody thirsty? Yeah, Ronnie, yes, thanks. I'll have a Guinness, please, if I may. Or maybe you've got a vodka tonic in there somewhere. So the rehearsals were fabulously funny. It was great. And Ronnie was just brilliant as ever. And the record did very well. It did 4.5 million, I think, which is quite a lot in those days. And then it was so successful, then they said, let's go on the road. So off we went for 10 months. And that was the last tour I did with Rod, because I didn't really want to spend my time touring, because there's nothing else you can do. I mean, you're on tour, that's it. You could maybe write a song if you felt inclined, but I never liked writing on the road. It's a different mindset. And of course I had kids and a wife and all that kind of stuff, and they would come out and visit, but I now have a 17-year-old daughter who lives with me. I'm a single dad, and I absolutely love it. I would not want to go out on the road for extended periods of time. I was 10 days in America recently, and that's as much as I want to do. These times are too precious. She'll be gone, to university in a couple of years, and that'll be that. That should be, be the empty nest business. So. So anyway, wandering off on that. So touring is now not really on my menu. Writing songs and playing gigs with my wonderful band, which is called Cregan Co. And they're fantastic players, absolutely fantastic players. So and we play music from my heritage and new songs. So it's lovely. That's what I'm doing at the moment. Sorry, it's your turn. Go on.
No. We will get to Cregan Co in literally the next question on from this. Obviously, you briefly touched on the Cat Stevens thing there. I'm watching a video where you were saying that he bought you a Strat, didn't he? That you still got today.
That's it. There.
That's right. I mean, how does that work? Like,
you go shopping with him and you haven't got any money. That's how it works. It was the same session that I was talking about where Linda Lewis was doing. I was playing a Linda Lewis session, and he's a lovely guy. I mean, I've worked with him a couple of years back. Went down to France and made a record with him. He's an absolute sweeteart, and we just said, let's go and have a look in the guitar shops. In those days, you wanted to see what was new or what was going on. And so we went on to Sunset Strip and into one of the guitar shops. Now, I don't think it was the Guitar Centre. I don't think the Guitar Centre existed. But anyway, we pop into this place, and I'm looking for a Strat. I'd been playing Gibsons up to that point, and the Telecaster. And I saw that Strat in there, picked it up, put it in an amp, absolutely loved it. And I said, will you pay for it? Steve, we used to call him those days. Would you pay for it, please? And I'll give you the money when I get home. Because, or maybe I just left my credit cards in the hotel or something. I don't know. Anyway, he bought it and I gave him the money later. It was $250, I think. And it's now probably worth about 20,000 quid.
Okay, money's worth out of
that. Yeah, 1964.
Wow.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great guitar.
of course, going to where we are today with Cregan Co. You obviously have the new Christmas single out, which is the cover of the Christmas classic, When a Child is Born. What made you guys go for that song and going for a Christmas single?
Okay, well, I work for this. I'm the chairman or some such kind of silly name of the music part of a charity called Angel Force USA. And Angel Force USA is run by a friend of mine, Anne Dunsmore. And the idea is we try to raise awareness of the problems of suicide in the US military and in general all over the place. So because she's American, we're starting it there, but we have hopes to come over into Britain and make it an international awareness. Without going into this, first of all, there aren't very many of these charities because it's such a wretched subject. You know, you want to clear a room, you say, I've come to talk to you about suicide. And it's, you know, everybody's out. Nobody wants to talk about it, and that's the problem. So I invented a word called suicidance, which is self-explanatory, really. It's that nobody wants to talk about suicide. So I was just recently in America at a symposium where there are lots of speakers who can talk about how there's new methods for mental health and all the rest of it. But mainly what we're trying to do is get people to talk to each other about the risk. People that are at the risk of suicide need somebody to talk to, and the military, especially, they're warriors. They're not going to talk to you. I remember this bloke, a Vietnam vet, because I'm meeting all these incredible people, veterans from all over, from the Second World War. There was one at this symposium, and I remember he said to me, he said, "Listen, why don't you not just F off, right?" He said, "We don't want to talk to you." He said, "This is, you know, you don't understand us. You come over here and, you know, all that stuff." And he's a donor, a big donor to this. But this was the part of him that he wanted me to understand. We're warriors. You know, our idea of communicating with each other is, all right, yeah, all right, let's go and have pizza. That's their idea of communicating. So the idea that you need to kind of break down some of these barriers, that's the heart of what Angel Force USA does. So there's the Angel Force band, right, of which I'm supposedly chairman. It's great guys in it, you know, really, really wonderful players. It's just too many to mention at the moment, but trust me, there's some hot session guys and brilliant touring guys. So Anne phones me up last year and says, why don't Angel Force band put out a Christmas single? And you know, see, we try and get a hit and we'll raise awareness. The money goes to the charity. I said, okay, I can do that. So got together with my lot over here and said, let's sit down and listen to a bunch of Christmas singles, see what we want to do. So we listened and listened and listened. And then on came When a Child is Born, Johnny Mathis. Oh, what a beautiful melody. This is such a pretty song. We could do this. So I said that there's that talking bit in the middle, isn't there? I know about that. Only Elvis can do talking bits in the middle of his songs. All the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players. Remember that? One of his tunes. I loved it. I don't like talking in records, it annoys me. So I said, we'll get rid of that bit. And so I'll write a bridge to take its place. And Ben's going to sing that, and Sam's going to sing the rest of it because it seemed a better choice for his voice. We've got two great singers, Sam Tanner and Ben Mills. So we do it. We send it over to Anne. And are you familiar with the cheese, the Monty Python cheese sketch, where he goes into a cheese shop, keeps asking for cheese, and the bloke keeps saying, "No, we haven't got that, right? We haven't got that one." You know, it's a very famous sketch. Well, it felt a bit like that because, you know, he asked in the cheese sketch. John Cleese asked for cheddar. He says, "Have you got any cheddar?" He says, "No." He says, "But it's the most singularly popular cheese in the world." "Not round these parts, sir." So I said the thing to Anne. Anne goes, okay, yeah, this is lovely. This is lovely. Thank you very much. I've never heard of this song. I said, but it's an international hit. Not round these parts, right? It wasn't a hit in America. I could not believe it. So I'd sent her the only song I could have found that was absolutely wrong for the job. Right? So it wasn't a cover of anything as far as she was concerned. It was trying to sell a new song at Christmas, which, how hard is that? So it fell on the floor. Right? We put it out, it fell on the floor. So this year I said, look, Anne, it's a shame that we don't do something like that. Why don't I put that out instead of it under Angel Force? I'll put it under Cregan Co, because we've got two people that like Cregan Co in England, and both of them will probably download it, which they did. And thank you, Mum, and thank you, my sister. So here we are now with this track out, and it's doing well. It's number 15 in the Heritage Music Chart as we speak. So the money goes to Angel Force. We played it yesterday at a carol service, which goes on the BBC, and it's I think it's quite a nice version. I'm very pleased with it, and I get to be Hank Marvin at the beginning. I play the melody and try my best to sound like Hank. Hey. It's come full circle.
Oh, that's really
76, cool. So I get to be Hank. God, wouldn't that be great?
You have obviously 3 ASCAP awards for outstanding songwriting.
Yeah.
Do you have, like, when it comes to writing songs, do you have a particular process? Like, is there a special sauce?
Yeah, well, gosh, yeah, I knocked it over a long time ago and spilled all over the floor. Not as much. I'm more diverse now than I was a couple of years ago, because I wrote a book entitled "And on Guitar," because that's how I'm always introduced on stage. It's always "And on Guitar, Jim Cregan." So writing the book was interesting. I found that I actually enjoyed the process more than I thought it was going to be a terrible chore, and sometimes it was. I just didn't feel like doing it. And my co-writer and editor, Andrew Merriman, kept poking me with a stick and saying, "Come on, Jim, you got to write today. It's a sunny day. I'm going out my boat. Make me write. Get on with it. Come on." We got a publishing deal before we finished it, so we had a deadline, which is a good thing. Deadlines are good. So after having written the book and enjoyed all those the searching for an image, in fact, my she was as beautifully dressed as a bull in a tutu. Those kind of ideas, all these images that are in the book, which I thoroughly enjoyed coming up with. It's great fun. So I saw it as puzzles rather than problems. When you've got and you would know, being a writer, the puzzles, you can get stuck. And if you see it as a puzzle rather than a problem, I like puzzles. I don't like problems. I love puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, those kind of bricks that intertwine and all those kind of things. I love those. So then I decided that lyric writing was going to be about puzzles, not about problems. And because I'd kind of turned my head around on that, it's been quite successful for me in terms of getting the work done. I'm not saying that I haven't written a hit for a little while now, but that's a function sometimes of the business. I've written some nice songs, I think, but it's just I have to do it. It's what I do. It's the extension of being a musician is to be a writer. I mean, it is for me anyway. I mean, I guess that maybe Eddie Van Halen could write very quickly, and so it left him more time for playing the guitar as fabulously as he did. For me, I like to take my time, so maybe that's where my energy goes into thinking about what I'm going to say. So it's a long-winded way of saying I'm now able to write lyric as well, I think. So, but normally I was a melody writer. I can write melody all day long. I'm so fortunate it doesn't bother me at all to come up with a melody.
Just a natural thing.
I guess. I'm fearless. I think that's the other thing. I'm fearless. A friend of mine, B.A. Robertson, once told me when I was going off, because I was signed as a staff writer to Universal, and another time I was signed to Warner's, which is quite a nice, it's a nice job. I mean, 25, 30 years ago, they gave me $300,000 to sit home and write songs. I thought, whoa, this is all right.
Very nice.
Very nice, yeah. So they would send me off to Nashville and New York to write songs with some of their other writers, which involves sitting in a room with a complete stranger and essentially getting naked emotionally, because if you want to write, you can't hold anything back. It's got to come from the heart. So you're with a stranger, and they obviously they've got the same thing because they're writers too. But it was very odd. I didn't get any hits out of the trip to Nashville. But I should have done, really, but I don't know what happened. I think it's kind of forced, just sitting. So you arrive at 10 o'clock and you've got till 1 o'clock to write a song, right? And then at 2 o'clock you're going to have lunch, and at 2 o'clock you write another song between 2 and 5, right? So anyway. That's not a bunch of fun, but it's interesting, but it's not fun. Anyway, so I was telling you about B.A. Robson. I said, I'm going to bring a couple of songs with me in my back pocket, which I can whip out and say, why don't we work? You want to work on this? He said, no, don't do that. He said, I wouldn't do that at all if I were you. Okay, what would you do? He says, you go to the edge of the cliff and you just jump off. So you've got nothing in your head at all. You get the guitar out and you start. And I went, okay, I can do that. And he was right. You may not get a hit out of this, but you will get something, because that's what we do. It's like, getting back up on your bike after you fall off. You know how to do this. I know how to write songs. So being fearless is part of it. I mean, if I was to give any advice to anybody who's thinking, because your two listeners are they're both probably musicians.
It's nearly an all musician thing.
So you guys, be fearless. That's the rule. Be fearless. Don't try. Two things to avoid. Please don't write a lyric full of cliches. That's so boring. And don't let anybody tell you that you've got to do it this way and it's got to have that. So it's got to have that, because it's a bunch of crap. I remember talking to. So I've got this lovely song which Rod Stewart eventually recorded, which is the best years of my life. I think it is. The best days of my life, which I wrote with Steve Harley. And I played it to my publisher in LA. I was living there at the time. She said, oh, this is a beautiful song. I was very pleased with it. And Rod, as I said, Rod Stewart recorded it a couple of years back. And so she says, I'm going to send this now on an email to the head of something in Nashville and see what he says. So she did that. And he got on the phone. He said, okay, thanks for sending the song over. He said, I've had a listen to it. He says, it's a beautiful song, but it hasn't got a chorus, at least on the speakerphone. And I said, yeah, it does have a chorus, yeah. She said, Michael, while you're there, would you just be kind enough to sing me the chorus of Maggie May? Because I can't think of it right now. And he went, yeah, okay. Because there's no chorus in Maggie May. What about Stevie Wonder's Superstition? Was there a chorus in that? No, there isn't, is there? No. So there's the lesson. Don't take anybody's point of view, even including mine. Just be fearless. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody, a huge hit, fearless record.
I mean, it's like, it's so out there.
Yeah.
Even now, it's just so different from everything else, really. Yeah,
monster hits. 7 minutes long or something, and I don't know how many movements there are in it. It must be 5 different parts. And, at least if you're fearless, you you can claim that you're pushing the boundaries and you're trying your best and you're being fully creative. When you try to, there's an old line that one of my friends put in a song. If you don't follow your dream, you'll end up following someone else's. And I think that's a very important thing to hold in your heart when you're being creative.
No, I think that's great advice. Of course, you also have your own podcast yourself, Stars, Cars and Guitars, which I've just started watching, actually. Obviously, you recently spoke with Leo Sayer and Roger Taylor. I didn't realise until watching that episode with Roger that you guys kind of knew each other quite well.
Oh, yeah. We're old pals, very old pals. I don't know how long, we can't remember how long ago it is, but it's sometime around Cockney Rebel time. I knew him before. It's Cockney Rebel and Queen were stablemates at EMI, and we were both having hits. I think one of us did better than the other. I just can't think which one I did. Oh, yes, I know now.
Just a little bit.
And then, of course, he lived the next street over from me in LA. So we would hang out in bars and have dinner together. He would come to my house for dinner, and I'd go to his. That sort of thing. We were, properly good friends. We go sailing together. I'm a boaty kind of person, and I really don't care what kind of boat it is. It could be a dinghy or it can be a massive yacht. I don't care. I just love to be on the water. And sometimes dinghies are more fun, he's got a big sailboat, and we went sailing around Ibiza and Formentera around there a couple of years back, maybe more than that, maybe it's 4 years now. And it was lovely, silly holiday, rather too much wine, but great, So yeah, we're mates. We're very good mates.
Well, that's really cool. I wouldn't have pieced, you two kind of crossing paths, the whole Queen and Cockney Rebel.
You do get to know. You get to know, if you stay around long enough, you get to know loads of people. It's inevitable. You back in the day when, people don't make records the same way anymore. You don't spend months in the studio doing the whole thing and finishing it. But in those days, we would be working at the record plant, and they would be in the next room, or Stevie Wonder would be in the next room, or the Knack, or I can't remember. Loads of people. So they're three main rooms. There, two big tracking rooms, and one kind of smaller but still a hefty recording room. I mean, it's a bit like Abbey Road. I mean, Abbey Road's got 4 major studios. So you could be there with all sorts of other people be in the building. You'd meet in the canteen, or in the lounge, or whatever, or in the jacuzzi, as it was in the record plant. They knew how to entertain the guys.
Now, a question that I always like to finish on, that I ask every guest that comes on. A bit of a hypothetical one. If you could tour with one band from the past and one band from the present, who would they be?
Well, that's a great question. Blind Faith. I would probably like to. I would have liked to have been in Blind Faith. That would have been a great band, great players. And so, when you talk about the present, would that include something like the Eagles, or
yeah? I mean, you could go with anybody that's still kind of
anybody that's still playing, right? Yeah. Well, I'm quite a big Eagles fan. That music is for some reason, even though it's a tiny bit over tidy for me, it could be a little more raw. Still, the writing is so good. I mean, Don Henley's a wonderful writer, but Billie Eilish is somebody I'd like to work with. I listen to her music quite a lot. Well, hey, I've got a 17-year-old daughter. We have iTunes and we have a Bluetooth connection. So Spotify rather. So we have, when we're out in the car, we're always listening to somebody relatively new. And also, Billie Eilish. I like Billie Eilish. I think she started a whole new movement of a very soft vocal, mostly a very soft vocal, and incredibly minimalistic. I think the productions and her voice and her writing, God, her writing's fantastic. I'm a big fan. I love what she does. So probably Billie Eilish and the Stones would be fine. I mean, they're still going. We don't know for how long. But Blind Faith, I like that band. I'd like to be in that band just to play with Stevie Winwood and Ginger Baker and of course Eric. Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be crazy. I mean, the Billie Eilish thing's interesting. I mean, it's one of those where I remember reading somewhere that for the first record she did, they did it in their bedroom.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, that's ridiculous.
I know. But that's what we could do. I mean, I'm talking to you now on a Macintosh, an iMac, and I can make records on this. It's maxed out with all the various things you can put in it. And I work in Pro Tools. I've got a Genelec speaker system. I've got great microphones. I can record here. And I do. I make records here. Apart from the drums, I go in the studio and put the drums on live. But I can do everything else here. That's great. Yeah, that's what she does.
The wonders of technology.
Hey, I'm good. I'm good at technology. Honestly, yeah. I mean, when computers first came out, a Commodore 64 was the computer I had, and I bought it because there was a guy came around the studio and said, anybody want to buy a computer? We said, what's a computer? Sort of thing. And he said, well, it's this. And I bought one, and I wrote, I was writing a screenplay at the time for fun. And I wrote it on that. And I've had computers ever since. I've got God knows how long. So I'm not afraid of technology. I'm always sad when people my age are terrified of things like, how to work an iPhone, how to drive a Tesla, how to work anything on a computer. It's a shame, because it's a wonderful way to be creative. I mean, my daughter does things on her iPad with one of those Apple pens, that you can draw things. It's brilliant. I'm fascinated. So yeah. Billie Eilish, okay, good girl.
Oh, there's some cool choices in there. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Jim. And
it's been my pleasure, Ryan. Thank you so much for letting me come and hang in your.
It's cool, and
that's a great looking room you've got there.
I know. I've dressed it all up, especially for Christmas.
Oh, bless you. Okay.
To tie in with the Christmas single, which people can listen to via the link in the description below, and. Obviously, all the profits will go to
Angel Force USA. Yeah,
Angel Force USA. So obviously, go and check that out.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ryan, it's been a lovely afternoon spent with you, and thank you so much for having me on.
It's been really cool. Thank you very much, Jim.
You're most welcome.
I really appreciate it.